Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans, welcome back to another episode of the Rule the Galaxy podcast. I'm sitting kind of solo today. The crew is not here, but Joe is in the pilot seat. And as a special guest, one of the guys who I have listened to for a decade plus, and one of the guys who I just love to hear his show every week, and I love to go on his site, all those kind of things. Mr. Mark Newbold. Uh, all the way from England, joining us today. Mark, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. All the better for that wonderful intro. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I every time before we go on, I like to go back and make sure something new has not popped up on Wikipedia or StarWars.com. And so I'm glad I haven't really missed anything, but still it amazes me every time when I look back to see that you get your first article on the, I believe it's a Star Wars Insider in 2006. I mean, that's so long ago to even think about. So it's just crazy. And you've been writing, as I think I heard you say the other day, how many thousands on Fantha tracks have you written recently?
Oh wow! So I keep a track because I'm sad. So I keep a track of the posts I've done, and I think I worked out that by the end of next week I'll go over 10,000 posts, which is since October 30th. No, sorry, October 31st, 2017. So what's that? Four and a bit years, 4.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me because, and I think I've mentioned this to you before. Me and my crew here, the guys, we've been doing this now for a little over 2 years, and I think we're at this is episode 126. I guess I should throw that in there. This is chapter 126 of Rule of the Galaxy, but 126 episodes in a little over 2 years. And to think of what you've been doing since the early 2000s in Star Wars, and to think about writing 10,000 posts, I feel like it's a full-time job just doing a once a week podcast. So I don't know what how you separate your time out to get all this done, but it's amazing. So thank you for doing all your hard work. And I try to repost because you usually put the title and everything of your most recent posts out on Twitter. I try to retweet that because I usually dig in and read those, but lots of great material. So thank you again for doing all that.
Oh, I appreciate that. I do see the retweet, so that's always nice to get the signal boost. It's always appreciated.
Well, no worries. Hey, the other day, and I'm going to take us kind of off Star Wars, which, by the way, before I do that, remember you can always follow us at Rule of the Galaxy SW on Twitter, email us at ruleofthegalaxysw@gmail.com, or just follow us on Facebook or YouTube at just Rule of the Galaxy. But that was my plug. Now back to Mark. Mark, you put up the now infamous give me your three or ask me three on Twitter, three things. And I believe I asked you your three favorite musicians and your three favorite places in the US to visit. Do you remember what you put down for those?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I put musicians. I put Steve Harris, the bass player from Iron Maiden, Eddie Van Halen, who's obviously just legend, and Ginger Wildheart, who's the lead vocalist and guitarist and songwriter for my favorite band, the Wild Hearts. And places in the States, I think I put San Francisco, New York, and Petaluma, but Las Vegas very nearly got in there because I absolutely love Vegas. So it was a close one. That would have been my near pick. So I couldn't not put Petaluma because Rancho's there. So that had to go in.
And see, that's one place I have not visited. I've been to San Francisco, lovely town, beautiful scenery. I've only flown into and out of New York. I've never actually spent a day there. And then Las Vegas was in my top three as well, I believe. But yeah. And then a weird town that I would put on the side, Waco, Texas. I know it's weird and it's a small little town, but there's something quaint and fun about Waco, Texas. It's that city where Chip and Joe do the home remodel show that they do. So I don't know, it's just weird. I went there with my daughter. It was a really great time. But you had some very specific musicians there. It's very awesome. I don't get that deep into it. You know the artists by the music they play and the all that. I'm just throwing out there, Foo Fighters, Beatles, and Frank Sinatra. You're going into bass player, lead guitarist, all those kind of things. I guess I don't have that in me. So
well, you make some good choices there because Foo Fighters, I adore the Foo Fighters and have since sort of day one when obviously out the back of the Nirvana thing. But Grohl is just a legend, and that's a commonly held opinion by rock fans and people outside of rock. He's just one of those great guys, isn't he? And you can't argue against Sinatra. So yeah, some good choices there.
Well, I'm pretty basic there. You know, you name three of the most famous things in the world, and I'm following them all three. But that's okay because my kids, they just sit there and they walk into my office. They know I'm listening to probably one of those three artists anyway. So, so what new has been going on in the Star Wars world for you? I mean, I know you're writing all the new posts and Fantha tracks and making tracks are keeping you busy. Star Wars Insiders keeping you busy. What else new and exciting can you think of where you're like, this stood out to me in Star Wars, and I just kind of want to hit on it or talk on it real quick?
Well, in terms of stuff that I'm doing, I mean, making tracks is busying along quite nicely. So as we speak, well, just before we started speaking, I'm just finishing the edit on 129. So that should be out reasonably soon. And that's going okay. We've got a change of schedule. So we keep making tracks on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock UK time, but hopefully within the next month or so, every Friday night at 7, you'll have a different or rather a different Fantha Tracks radio show. So we're going to rotate all the other shows on a Friday. So we'll see how that goes because there's a lot of work to be done to get that there. But most of the other teams are in place now. So we're just trying to firm that up and formalize that. So that's going well. I'm back in the Insider. I've not had anything in for about 5 issues, bit of a break. But I've got a Harriet Walter interview in 208, I think it was, which actually I only got my hands on yesterday. So it was nice to actually see it in print because I hadn't seen it physically, which is always a buzz. And then I've been working on other stuff that's coming in sort of consequent issues. And I've got some stuff to do if the Ducks line up and Celebration is still going ahead because it's very, very quiet at the moment. But if everything's happening, then I've got some stuff to be doing at Celebration as well to do with Insider. So I'm always buzzed to do that. And just generally, just now we're sort of, I mean, this feels weird with everything that's going on in the world, especially with me being in Europe and everything that's going on the edge of Europe right now. Who knows where we're going to be, in days to come. But where we are right now, just looking ahead to the summer, the summer season of conventions. So here in the UK, I mean, of course, I'm looking to New York Comic Con and Celebration and Rancho and sort of US conventions. But here in the UK, London Film and Comic Con in July, Star Wars Fan Fun Day in May, which is a big one for us. So just sort of plotting and planning and organising and, the boring things like booking hotels and such, just trying to get everything laid out. So even though there's nothing specifically new, it's very, very busy. It's never anything but busy. And we've got a holiday coming up, so we're planning for a holiday. So
you've got a holiday. What holiday is coming up in the UK?
Well, no, it's for us, the family. We've
holiday break. Okay,
holiday break.
Yes, sorry.
which never happens. I mean, I never get breaks. We booked 2 years ago with the in-laws and my wife's brother a trip to Florida. Yes, because we all turned 50 within sort of 18 months of each other, give or take. Weirdly, when we should have gone, I would have just turned 49. Actually, when I get back, the day we get back, it will be my 51st birthday. That tells you everything about how much this has been put back. So I think it's the third or fourth time we've rescheduled. So, and then of course, now everything that's happening in the world, who knows, it might not happen again, but that's really the least of our concerns given the scale of everything. But nevertheless, that's the plan. So it'd be nice to get some sun and see some stuff and have some fun and just chill out and sort of re-energize a little bit because it has been foot to the floor. It feels like for quite a few years. So, but good. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm one, I'll hit you up on my holiday here in a moment, but two, with your holiday, are you planning to visit the Magic Kingdom and the Galaxy's Edge?
Absolutely. I'm so looking forward to doing Galaxy's Edge because, as I say, we should have been there 2 years ago where it was still relatively new. And I think at that time as well, the plan was, well, of course, Celebration would have been in 2020. So I would have done them both back in 2020. But it never happened. So yeah, that is the plan. So I think I've left my wife and my brother-in-law to plan all the days of what we're doing and on what day. And all I can tell you that I know is that we go to Animal Kingdom on the first day, which is the 15th of March.
Nice.
And then I think we're at Galaxy's Edge on the 19th and again on the 27th. And we're hoping to bump into some friends on the 27th and have a catch up with some folks. But other than that, all the other days, I have literally no idea. I'm just switching the brain off and just rolling with it. I'm going where I'm told and I'm eating as whatever I'm just put in front of me and I'm just going to chill. So, but I'll still be doing the site. I'm not told the whole wide world, but I have took my laptop. I'm taking my laptop, so I'm still doing stuff.
Well, if you visit Galaxy's Edge, I know you're going to have a post every day, not even because you want to, but just because it'll be right there in front of you. And you're going to say, here's what I did today. I have to post about this. Right. So I personally went in October of 2020. Had to wear the mask the entire time, which was a bummer. But it was still, I went with my wife, who, God love her, she's a trooper. She said, I will go because I know it's important to you. She's not the biggest Star Wars fan. She watches the movies with me, but other than that, she's really not into it. She'll watch Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. But she made it through the day. For her, it was okay. For me, it was great. I think I would have given it a 10 out of 10 for me, except I couldn't get on Rise of the Resistance because they were setting up those stupid things where like every 4 hours you had to click, click, click and try to get in. I didn't get in on either of those, and I could not get a reservation, even though it was 2 months out when I tried to get into Olga's Cantina. So
right.
it
Yeah.
was an 8 out of 10. It was a fun day. It was, riding in the Millennium Falcon, the Smuggler's Run was a great time. Being in the land itself was fun. Doing, went and bought Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber. Now I really want to get back and buy Luke Skywalker's and possibly Ahsoka Tano's if that's there now. I'm not sure. But I didn't get into Oga's and I didn't get into Rise of Resistance. So I think those two would have pushed it over the top, and I would have had a perfect day. Now, with this all being said, do any of your plans include staying at the Galactic Star Cruiser?
If I'd won the lottery, not that I would have ever told anybody, it would have been, if I ever win, you'll never know. But if I'd won the lottery, then maybe silently, quietly, yes, I would. But as it stands, no. Unless some wonderful Disney fairy comes along and says, Mark, we're going to gift you, a day at Galactic Star Cruiser, then no. I'd love to have a look around. I mean, obviously,
Yes.
A lot of the press got out recently and had a look around. I'd love to have a look around because I just want to be nosy and see it. But no, sadly, not this time. I mean, we've just talked about it on Making Tracks. If it's a success, and we've got to hope it's a success, then you'd think, well, maybe Anaheim gets one, and Hong Kong and Shanghai and Paris gets one, and other places get them. And then because you would imagine all the cost of research and development and all the other elements went into this one unique place that's there in Orlando right now, then if they do the other ones, then it may, you never know, it may come down. But then by the same token, if they're still absolutely smashing it and it's packed out and sold out for months in advance, why would they want to drop the price? They'd be crazy to. It's a business after all. So we'll see. But as it stands, no. But
well, one,
Disney, and I'm in town, then you're more than welcome.
Well, I think we should start on Twitter today. I think you and I should start a push for a pass for Mark and his wife to get into Galactic Star Cruiser when you're there. I think Twitter world tagging Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars, Lucasfilm, I think we can make it happen. But I'll leave that up to you. If you want to do it, then we'll do it. So
I shall do that, and I'm going to go and get my shopping in right now.
Go get your shopping.
I'm going to. You can fill time now whilst I'm getting my shopping in. This is real world, isn't it?
I love it. Go right ahead. So while Mark's away getting his shopping, I will say this to all the fans. I know we promoted on Twitter. We were going to have Jonathan Davis, the Star Wars audiobook and narrator, on. We were going to do an interview with him last night. Unfortunately, I was a little under the weather, and my co-host Nick Shesky, who also leads some of the shows, had some conflicts. So we are working with Jonathan right now to set up another day for him to come on with us on the show, and we'll have that out to you soon. But that was something we had planned for a while, and just two terrible things. I got ill. Nick had a very terrible conflict with work that he couldn't avoid. So we'll have that to you soon. Jonathan was nice enough to say he'd reschedule that. So I want to apologize to all of you on that. As far as other things going on, Rule of the Galaxy is still super excited. We're going to talk to Mark about it. He goes to conventions and events all the time. We will be going to ICCC, ICCC in Nashville, April 29th through May 1st. That'll be our first week there, our first event or convention. So we're really excited about that. I might get Mark when he comes back to give me some advice on what we should do and how we should handle that. So, and he is putting stuff away, as you can hear in the background right now. So outside of that, please go check us out on Etsy. If you go to etsy.com and just type in all capital letters, Rule the Galaxy. Rule the Galaxy, all caps, all one word, no spaces. If you go to Etsy and put in Rule the Galaxy, we now have hats, shirts, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, all available on that Etsy page. Laura Burton, who has been helping us with her business, is doing a great job. We've got orders from all different parts of the United States so far, hoping soon for our first international order. That would be absolutely awesome. But go check those out. Again, we've got a good variety, kept it simple, just kept our logo on there, and it's doing very well. So we're excited about that. A couple things that my guys didn't talk about on the last show that really threw me for a loop. One of the original Star Wars VHS tapes from, I believe, 83 or 84. Someone had kept that in the wrapping. Somebody had kept that sealed in plastic since then. And recently at a bidding, an auction, somebody got $60,000 for having the VHS tape, the original Star Wars New Hope, still wrapped and sealed and everything like that. Amazing to think about. Amazing the things you think about if you just keep them sealed or packed, what they're worth in the future. But I still have my original version right here. And I cannot believe that if I would have kept it in the wrapper, it would have been worth $60,000. So that's going on. That was one thing we were talking that I asked them to talk about, which they didn't, but that's okay. Look at it again. Jonathan Davis will be back with us soon. We will have another guest coming up soon, a gentleman who does a lot of Star Wars gaming. He's going to be on with us very soon. We have a few other guest hosts that we'll be adding into the list very soon as we lock them away. I will tell you that with all the Kenobi stuff coming up in April, we will have Star Wars author John Jackson Miller, as his Kenobi book is re-released in April. He said he would love to come on and talk about that, talk about other Star Wars things. So he'll be doing that in April with us. We're really excited about that. And as a matter of fact, in honor of Jonathan Davis, our missing host, because we missed his show, he actually does the narration for the Kenobi book by John Jackson Miller. And I've been listening to that over the last few days. I have about 3 or 4 hours left of that one that I need to get through so that I can talk to him more knowledgeably when I have him on the show here very soon. So that is it. I will tell you, to the fans that listen quite a bit, obviously Brent is on here a lot. Nick, D-Doc, Alfie, they're on here a lot. Joey's going to be showing up from time to time. And Mass, I'm reaching back out to Ryan Massengale because I know he loves to add in the extra cursing and foul language into the show. We should have him on here very soon. So that's where we are. And when Mark comes back, we'll start.
I'm back. I'm back.
Oh,
I'm enjoying the show.
Oh,
it's far better without me on it.
Here I am rambling, thinking you're going to say, "Hey, Joe, I'm back." I'm so sorry. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on.
Hopefully, when John Jackson Miller comes on, he's not so rude that he'll disappear halfway through the show to get his shopping in like me because I'm so badly organized.
Oh my gosh! No. Hey, I kind of like this because it feels like real world is going on, right? I mean, people are listening and saying, "Gosh, this guy who's very important to Star Wars is getting his shopping done while he's on with Joe right now." So
that's multitasking.
So I don't know if you heard any of my goofiness that I was just saying there. I obviously heard about John Jackson Miller. We're excited about him. Jonathan Davis coming back. We're excited to get that reset up. I've been doing the audiobook of Kenobi, and man, I forgot how much I really enjoyed that book. And Jonathan Davis does a really great job with that book. So I don't know if you read it or listened to it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't listen to it. I have got the audiobook, but I didn't listen to it. But I have got the Audible account now. So it may well, because like you just mentioned, it's coming out in the Essential Legends collection as one of the re-releases, isn't it? So I know we've got that all lined up to do another review. Yeah, I love that. It's been, 10 years? 10 years since Kenobi came out. So I would love to have a listen to that because I do more miles in the car than anything. So it's the best place for me to. It's great having the books to refer to if I need to find something specific, but to listen to it is probably the way. That's how I've done most of the Whole Republic so far, is audiobooks. And I did, you mentioned Jonathan Davis. I remember meeting him. It was, let me get it right. It was him, it was Mark Thompson and January Lavoie. The three of them together. I think it was at Celebration 6 if not 6, then Anaheim in 2015. But I'm pretty sure it was Celebration 6, which is 10 years ago, which is scary. Yeah, all great people, and like you say, those voices. It's just you listen to them talk all day.
Well, yeah, we've had Mark Thompson on twice, and he has just been such a great person. He's so excited to come on and talk about things and do his voices for us and things like that. And so when I reach out to Jonathan Davis, I was like, hey, don't want to bug you, but we've already had Mark on, and I know you guys do. So he said, oh, Mark, we're pals. Sure, if he's on your show, I'm on. And I thought, how great that he would just jump on and do that. So so we were to finish up on the Galactic Star Cruiser, because I wanted to hit on this. It's been a love-hate relationship on our show. We all want Star Wars to be successful. We all want it to be like the best, right? I mean, while other people say, "Oh, Marvel this," and Harry Potter this and all that, I love those things. They're great. I love all those franchises, but we want the best for Star Wars. But just like you mentioned, it has been very tough for us because we look and go, we want to go to the Galactic Star Cruiser, but we just look and go, that price tag right now for us it's quite hefty. So we're trying to figure out how to make that work. I mean, how to make that work for us. And so it's again, that love-hate thing is we love it, we want to love it, but at the same time we sit there and go, we hate that we can't afford this right now.
It's a tricky one because I think with Star Wars, like with anything, it's like the same with anything. Some people can afford fancy cars and other people can't. Some people can afford a fortnight in the Bahamas and other people have a week on at the coast sort of thing.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, you have just as good a drive or just as good a holiday, doing either or either. But by the same token, with Galactic Star Cruiser, the way I'm trying to think of it is, I can't, in all good conscience, I can't justify that spend, because that's a really nice 2-week holiday for me and my wife somewhere.
Right.
For me to just selfishly indulge myself for 2 days is not. It's just not on. That being said, if you've got the money to do it, more power to you. And I know friends who are going, and I know a lot of the people who were there last week, and they didn't pay for it, but they were there and they've seen it, and some have said they're going to go back. So it's impressed some of them enough to go, well, I'm putting my hand in my pocket. So that's all well and good. Not everybody's the same. Everybody's got their different situations and such. But that being said, you're absolutely right. I always want. I'm Team Star Wars. So whilst I will criticize, not overtly, but I'll criticize things if I don't think it's right, or I think it could be better, or the whole headcanon thing sometimes comes into it, because we've all got our own feelings on how things we'd like them to be, and we can beat as much as we want. Nobody needs to listen to any of us moaning about things. But I am going to sort of do the cheerleader thing for Star Wars, and it's exactly like you say. I love Trek, I love Potter, soft on Potter, and a lot of other stuff like that. Marvel, I was a Marvel fan before I was a Star Wars fan. So I want those things to do well, and I'm knowledgeable about a lot of them, and I enjoy them all very much. But I'm not even remotely they don't ingrain themselves into my life anywhere near the way Star Wars does. I love rock music, but and I like what I like, but it's not a game changer for me like Star Wars is. So you make a great point, and the way you phrase it is totally right. You want Star Wars to do well. So I want Galactic Star Cruiser to do well, and I want criticism that's there around it to be not negated, but to be managed. And I want things to tweak and change. I want to be talking about Galactic Star Cruiser on Fantha Tracks and on the podcasts when they introduce, there's a festival on in the summer, or they celebrate Life Day at Galactic Star Cruiser and things like that. I want to hear about that and talk about that. And maybe one day situations will change, or the price will come down, or something will happen, and I'll get to experience it for myself. And that's what we were saying on the show. It's difficult because a lot of these outlets have been and seen it and experienced it themselves. We can only judge one from the sort of the stock photographs that we've seen, which is what Disney wants us to see, and these people's excited opinions and impressions. But then within that, there's also some who are a bit more measured and a bit more, well, actually, maybe. And that's what I want. If I'm going to spend that kind of money, I want to hear the negatives and the positives. So in that sense, actually, whilst there's been some criticism of the people who've been, invited to go, which I think is unfair to criticize them. They didn't ask to be invited. They were invited. So good on them. But you do want that balanced mix of opinions, because if you're going in there thinking you're in the presidential suite at the Hilton and you're actually in something that looks like an easy hotel, which is quite small and compact, well, think about it. If you're on a starship, generally, you're going to be in a fairly small room. So it does kind of fit the MO of what the whole experience is about. And you're not there. It's not going to, you mentioned Vegas. It's not going to Vegas. You don't go to Vegas generally for the hotels. It's just somewhere to put your head down.
Right.
And hopefully you're in a decent location so you can be at whatever, wherever, up on the strip.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm curious to see how it all plays out over time. Like Galaxy's Edge, I mean, you don't hear there was always grumbles initially about Galaxy's Edge. Now a vast majority of people have been to see it and experienced it, and as that time goes on, more will get to go to it, and they'll tweak things and change things. Yeah, it's all positive, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And once I get on Rise of Resistance, that'll put me over the top. So
same.
Are you thinking, like I'm thinking, that we're getting ready to live in the world of Kenobi? Because one, we're getting the re-release of the John Jackson Miller, obviously. Two, there's a Brotherhood novel coming out in May. There's a young adult Kenobi novel coming out in July. There's a comic series coming out in May. And then the series itself, May 25th on Disney Plus. Are we about to jump into all out Kenobi world in the Star Wars universe?
It's funny. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. A bunch of us Fanthas went out. There's an exhibition near where I live in Lichfield called May the Toys Be With You, which is all the vintage Star Wars toys and UK posters and such. Right. And on the evening, there was a performance by the highly strung quartet who played the music of John Williams. It was a wonderful night. We went for a lovely meal and just talking, the four of us, just chatting about stuff. And said that, you go back a few years and it was all just Star Wars. Everything was just Star Wars. But now we've got Star Wars on the television, and we've had, it feels like a long way behind us, really. And I guess it is 2.5 years since Rise of Skywalker, but we had 5 years, consecutive years of Star Wars films coming out, with Rebels, with Clone Wars coming back, and so on and so forth. And then The Mandalorian coming in just before Rise of Skywalker. And it is now it's almost in blocks. So we had the Mando season 2 block, then we had everything was Clone Wars, and then everything was season 1 Book of Boba Fett. And now Book of Boba Fett's finished. It's almost like it never happened. It's just not being talked about at all. And now we're all waiting for Obi-Wan. And then once Obi-Wan's happened or starts, we'll be at Celebration, hopefully, and that will be everything. And then that'll be in the rearview mirror before we know it. So there's so much content coming for Star Wars. The thing that really strikes me is that when Charles Soule was writing War of the Bounty Hunters, they really gave us it felt like, and it was, I mean, I really enjoyed War of the Bounty Hunters, but it felt like a big deal and a big thing and a massive story. And then he announced that they're doing Crimson Reign and Hidden Empire. And we're in the middle of Crimson Reign now, and you barely hear anything about it. I've read the first issue. I'm about to read the second. I really enjoyed the first issue. The whole Kira thing, Crimson Dawn, it feels like a big deal. In another time, I feel that, I'm just making this as an example. Yeah. That would really be made a lot of. It would be articles on StarWars.com and things happening on the Star Wars, well, not the Star Wars show, but This Week in Star Wars, and just more things around it. But because we've just had Book of Boba, we've got Kenobi on the horizon, it's Ewan coming back, and that's a big deal, and Hayden coming back, and all the other stuff. A lot of things, there's so much happening, things get lost in the mix, and I do think that's a shame. So, long-winded answer to a very simple question. Yes, I think we are. I think we are. For the exact things you just said, we've got the comic coming. I'm looking forward to that, and because always, when Star Wars was the first run of the 2015 run of Star Wars, and every sort of 7th issue, you had a Mike Mayhew Kenobi type issue, which was always great fun. The book, as you say, Mike Chen's got Brotherhood coming out, and, there's all these other things, the Young Readers book you mentioned, and obviously, John Jackson Miller with Kenobi, which always felt like it's especially given that it came pretty much near the end of that original sort of EU run. It's right near the tail end of that. And that always felt like an important book and an insight that we never got. I know some people feel the same. They want a Shmi book, and there's certain characters you think, I'd love to learn more about this character. And Kenobi, who's been so front and center in like Clone Wars for the previous sort of 4 or 5 seasons, and he's always been there, but that sort of Revenge of the Sith, The New Hope era, we never ever really saw that much. And that John Jackson Miller book I mean, I haven't spoken to John for years. Last time I saw him was on the stairs at Celebration, and I had interviewed him 3 or 4 times before that. He does a lot of Star Trek stuff now, and he's a comics guy, so he's deeply into his Marvel and DC. I think he'd written Iron Man and a few other bits before that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's gonna feel great because that prequel era crowd, who grew up with those films, like the younger crowd now have grown up with the sequels, and we grew up with the OT. If only, why can't we all just get along? It's that thing, because I'm really very, very fond of the OT, and it's a weird relationship, because when Phantom Menace came out, mentioned in Vegas earlier, I saw Phantom Menace in Vegas, and then went back to see Clones and Sith at the same cinema at the showcase at the MGM, and always had great time in Vegas, as you do. But seeing that film there, Phantom Menace, especially Phantom Menace, I remember coming out of the cinema and walking across the car park and with my best friend Paul, and sort of both quietly walking along. And I looked at him and he looked at me, and we didn't talk about the film for a few minutes. And I said, what bar should we go to? Let's just go to this one. I think we ended up in, I don't know where, Coyote Ugly at New York, or somewhere weird like that, somewhere crazy like that. We just ended up in a bar quietly, and then just looked at each other. And I just remember saying, what the was that? Bleep, insert bleep, because I just didn't get it.
Right.
And we were there for 2 weeks. We'd been there a week by this point. We were there for 2 weeks. And in that second sort of 5 days, I think we saw it again 5 times. We went the next morning, then on the evening, then the next day. Then we moved on to San Diego for a few days. We saw it in San Diego. By the time I'd come home, bearing in mind it wasn't out till July in the UK, and this was May, we'd seen it 6 times. And by the sort of the 3rd or 4th time, it was like, oh, I get it. Because you've only had the OT, and then this thing comes along, and it's it didn't feel like Star Wars. I wasn't used to it. And you've got to consider that Star Wars Empire and Jedi are thought of as a block there. That they're the holy trilogy,
right.
Aren't they? They're the original trilogy. That's the Star Wars trilogy, and you almost don't separate the 3 films. So Phantom Menace stacking up against that 3 mega films was never going to come off well. The passage of time has been, I think, so kind. Not that it hasn't earned it, but it has been so kind, especially to Phantom Menace. And now I'm glad it's 2022, get the year right, and it's the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones, and now that's starting to get some love. And I've always when we saw Clones and came out of the cinema that time, we just looked at each other and went, now that's more like it. Because Clones was always Spielberg's favorite Star Wars film. It had that Maltese folk, and it had a bit of Raiders about it, which is why I love Solo. It just had that feel about it, and a bit more action, and you're in the galaxy. There wasn't a huge amount of preamble, because it just wanted to throw you in there and just get you moving around. And I really like Sith. I really like Clones, rather. And Sith, I would put in, I think Sith, if it isn't, should be in most people's sort of higher echelons of Star Wars, because there's so much weight and there's so much dread. I mean, that is a dark film, but not depressing dark, just dark because of the situation, not the way it's made, just the way it was done, the music, the performance, everything about that film was magnificent. So I look at the prequels as a real high point of Star Wars. And long answer again, this must be why you have me on, because I just ramble.
It's good.
You get Ewan comes out of that, and now here he is. I mean, I don't think he had the greatest time making them, which is admitted, and everybody knows it. It's no big secret. He struggled with it, but here you are now. Was it 18 years since he was last Obi-Wan? I think he did his pickups in 2003 or 4, and he's back in the role, and it looks like that the impression is, or certainly he's a very good actor, so he might not be exactly true. The impression is he had a ball, and I can't wait to see what sort of fun he had.
Yeah, no, I am so excited. I would say, well, 2 things. One, the Attack of the Clones being 20 years old this year blows me away. To think that is now, that it's been that long since that movie came out. It's just crazy to think about. I remember taking my little boy to the movie to see it, and to think now he's 28, has a kid on the way, has his own house, all that kind of stuff. And I took him to see Attack of the Clones 20 years ago. So that's just crazy to think. Yeah, life changes it changes really quick. You're right on Revenge of the Sith. I almost think if they would have done the Harry Potter style, they could have split that movie into 2 movies.
Agreed.
I mean, it had so much depth that you could have had the lead up until the point of no return, and then all from the point of no return on. And I think it would have been, you could have given me an extra hour all the way around on that at least, and
I
I would have
totally
been
agree with that.
happy with that. So,
Yeah,
but I think being that it has been that long, I think we'll all hope that 20 years from now, if you and I are even around then, let's just say that, but 20 years
yeah,
from now, and I'm hoping we will be, but uh, I'm hoping that people will have done the same thing with the sequel trilogy. Because you're right. When you initially see the prequels and they're so different from the originals, you think, wait a minute, what is this? How is this? But now that you've had this time to ingest them and to add in the comics, add in the
yeah,
animated, and add in all the other things that have been built off of them, they're almost as close to the original trilogy as anything to me now. And the characters and the storylines, and some of my favorite characters, my top 5 characters, Ahsoka and Captain Rex are in my top 5 favorite characters of all time.
yeah,
And let's face it, they're based out of that Clone Wars area, or prequel/Clone
yeah,
Wars era. So
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think it's a great point though that you make, and I think it's really important with, especially with the original trilogy, and it's something that the current films haven't been able to enjoy so much. And I think it's a shame, because we had a film every 3 years because they took
Hmm.
that long to make, and we didn't have Disney Plus, and Lucasfilm was this little indie company making them for Fox, and it was just a different world. That you get Empire would come out in like May 1980, and you knew you were waiting until May 83, so you got 3 years. And you guys had the monthlies and we had the weeklies and then the monthlies, and it was a different world. And you had, the toys came out, but it wasn't the market that it is now. They sold more then, no doubt, but it was a different world.
Yep.
And we were kids, so our relationship to Star Wars was far more tactile and very, very different. But nevertheless, the Han Solo books and reading the novels and the read your own adventures and all the other bits and bobs that were around,
Yes.
all the Buena Vista things would all sort of imbue in one big sort of casserole of Star Wars, and that's what we had, and that's what we took forward. So it wasn't just the films, it was all the other stuff around it. I think for a film like Rogue One, for example, I picked that as an example, to be so and completely justifiably highly regarded,
Yes.
without the extrapolation of other comics and other books. There was a few, obviously. There was the K2SO and Cassian comic, and of course we've got Andor coming, which that's the thing I'm really excited for this year. That's the one for me. But all the other little bits that would go around it, that extra waves of figures that you think every figure that batted an eyelid in The New Hope has been turned into plastic at some turn. But I would imagine it's a fairly small percentage of characters from Rogue One that have been immortalized in different ways. Those films now, because it's coming at us so fast, and it goes back to what I said about Crimson Reign as an example, we get Star Wars so fast now. The attention span of people in general is so short, and fools like me who run news sites who are just blasting away and editing podcasts and trying to get everything out as quickly and as well as possible. I'd like to, there's a level of quality to what we do, but I can't always say there is. We try our best, and it's just so thick and fast. The one thing I will hold on to forever is that even if we didn't have this torrent of content, which I'm really glad we do, because there were times in the past where I thought,
Yep.
oh, it is done. Maybe it's time to turn my focus towards. I do love Trek. I'm a unashamed Trek fan, so maybe it's time to turn my attention fully to Trek and get a website going for that and stop pushing on that. I tried it, didn't. My heart wasn't in it. My heart's in Star Wars. So I think if Star Wars, even if there wasn't the animations and the books and the comics and the films, I can tell you, or anyone, look them in the eye and promise you that I would still be running a Star Wars website and there would still be daily content. And okay, maybe I would have slid back to the fanfic that I used to write, because that's what kind of where I started with all this stuff, was fan fiction. I'd probably have gone back into doing what I used to on Lightsaber and be building my own stories. Nevertheless, I would have still been doing Star Wars in some form or fashion. And it's just that thing that once it's gripped you, I can't envisage not being at least interested. And I'm I like soap operas. I mean, I'm nosy. I like gossip. Star Wars, I just want to know what's going on. So like Galactic Star Cruiser, I wasn't there. I wasn't invited. Okay, fair enough. But I want to know what's happening, and I want to know what's in there. I just want to know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm at the point where Alfie on our crew here at Rule the Galaxy, he looks for all the spoilers. He looks for all the insight. He looks at all the, hey, here's what's going to be in Kenobi, and just letting you know. And we all shut him down because
Yeah,
while we want to be very involved and everything, I'm at a point where I'm like, nope, don't bring it. Don't even, you just keep it
yeah.
to yourself. I'd rather be surprised, and I don't want to be disappointed or let down if it doesn't follow what you're saying. So, but I think could it be that Star Wars, even though, like you mentioned, we love getting all this Fast and Furious thrown our way, could it be that Star Wars could be even better if there was a little downtime to take it in and let it breathe and enjoy it? Um, I don't know if that's heresy or not, but I think
No.
you're exactly right that given those 3 years to where we wrote our own stories, we did our own drawings, we played our own games, between movies, we read the comics, that really gave us time to love it and want it even more.
Yesterday, I don't know if you saw it. I'm pretty sure you did. I think you might have even liked the tweet I put out. But I was listening to the Return of the Jedi score, and I said, of all the soundtracks and it's not my favorite soundtrack. If I'm honest, Phantom Menace and Solo are probably my favorites. Empire would be the one I'd pick, but I've played that to death over the last 40 years. And sometimes you just have to leave an album alone, otherwise you just know you're going to ruin it. So I leave Empire alone for the most part. But Jedi, that was when I really got into Star Wars, was Empire to Jedi. I loved it when the original came out, and I enjoyed it when Empire came out, but I just got that bit older and I was a bit more creative, and my figure collection was coming on well, and I got a lot of friends at school who played, and that Empire to Jedi period I'm very, very fond of. So when Jedi came out, and I remember it was Christmas '83, I got the Jedi cassette and Raiders on Video 2000, which was a European format video thing. And they both got played to pieces. But Jedi, I just played it and played it and played it, and I'm absolutely soppy on that. And I just thought about, as a kid, with my dad's little grey cassette player, single cassette player with like mono speaker, listening to Jedi, with my pile of Star Wars and Empire comics in the corner, and my figures all set up around the room in little diaries. So my Falcon had got Han and Lando, and the Empire scene, and my all the other toys that were around all set up, my Hoth scene with my AT-AT and such. And I can still picture it clear as day. That made me as happy as anything I've ever done since. And I've been very lucky. I've done some very, very cool stuff. But I just think that's why Star Wars works so well. Because, and also you say about, when we were kids, we'd draw stuff and write our own stories. And I love fiction. I kind of sometimes wish I'd stuck with the fiction and pushed on with that, because I really did enjoy it. But the news stuff, the news reporting, waggles the air quotes, kind of took over, and I enjoy that. But I just think there's such a personal relationship with Star Wars that everybody loves it. Nobody loves it more than anybody else because it's unique to everybody.
Sure.
But we all had different experiences, and it came to us in different ways. And I just can't. And maybe Potter fans would say, well, that's how it is for me as a Potter fan, or Trek's, oh, that's how it's me for Trek. But for Star Wars, it's so big. I can see you on the screen. I'm looking at the pictures you've got behind you. I love your R2 t-shirt. It's, all the little things there. And I'm looking, thinking, well, I remember that when I saw that. I remember that. Oh, I've got that over there. It's just one of those things that Star Wars just feels so unique and still feels fresh as a daisy. What, 45 years on this year?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to think about, and it's amazing to think that we're this old that we remember all that. But it hits on certain things. And speaking of that, you and I were talking about beforehand. I didn't get a chance to talk about it last week on the show. I was out of the show last week, but Tom Beach passed away. And for so many people, and I'm putting it up on the screen now, of course, the light's getting bothersome with it, but the Dark Empire series, to think that we thought we were in seventh heaven when we got this 6th series of Dark Empire at the same time we were getting the Heir to the Empire books from Timothy Zahn. I mean, I don't know if you and I could have been happier at that time when that came out, and to see that he passed and rest in peace. Just to think that that's 30 years old now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 30 years old. It's not like we're talking about Star Wars being 30 years old. We're talking about something that was a secondary run of things that Star Wars was pretty
Yeah.
much over in our mind. And this came out to go, wow, this reinvigorates me on everything to do with Star Wars. This comic to go along with that trilogy of books right there just blows me away. And sorry about his passing. And but do you have good memories of the Dark Empire series at that time, or?
Oh, hugely, yeah. I mean, it's exactly what you just said. You think of Star Wars, you think of Trek, and Trek has ebbed and flowed. It's had
Right.
ups and downs, and good times and bad times, and fallow periods when it's disappeared. But Trek's been around for what, 55,
Yeah.
57 years now. It's really is old. Star Wars came out, was the biggest thing ever, was huge, and then I think Lucas was kind of bowled over by the weight of responsibility, the success he didn't expect, and all the other stuff, and rightly, and it paid off beautifully, but rightly put his efforts into Lucasfilm and ILM and Skywalker and all the other elements of the company and building the ranch and such. So Star Wars couldn't be, and he was right to do this, it couldn't be the be all and end all. And you kind of think, you get to the end of the 80s, which really was the Lucas Spielberg decade. I know they both had massive successes after, but that really was their decade completely. And you think, you finish it off with Last Crusade, but for Star Wars, you get past Jedi, you got the Ewok movies, you got Ewoks and droids, the Bantha Tracks finishes and Star Tours opens. So Star Tours opens into 87, which people consider the dark times, but Star Tours was there. West End Games was in 87 as well. That had massive effect on everything that came after us in the EU. So whilst there was a dark time, it really was short. I mean, if you consider, I would say, apart from the Blackthorn 3D comics, you go from 87 to 90, middle of 91, when Heir to the Empire comes out. And bear in mind, Zahn had to write the thing, Lucasfilm had to approve it, all the other stuff. Dark Empire was pitched to Marvel and they turned it down. I think there was I forget what comic it was, Marvel comic, but there was an advert for Dark Empire that, obviously it never went to Marvel, it went to Dark Horse. And thank goodness it did, because they were such great custodians of Star Wars. But yeah, for me, that time period, it was all Trek for me. Sort of turn of the 90s, best of both worlds and all that sort of stuff, season 3, next gen, it was just all Trek. So for Star Wars to suddenly come back, and I wasn't reading the Fan Club magazine at the time, because I think there's been periods where it wasn't available in the UK for various licensing reasons, and if memory serves, I think that was one of them. But so I was kind of out of the loop, just reading bits in Starburst, which I write for now, weirdly, and Starlog and other magazines like that. You just hear whispers of, like we all did, there's going to be a new Star Wars trilogy in 1994, and Mark Hamill's going to play the bad guy in Indiana Jones 4 or whatever it was. And there's Heir to the Empire. And then I went to the UK Comic Art Convention in the autumn down in London, got the train down, and Mike Richardson from Dark Horse was there, and he had a folder, just literally just a clipboard type folder with photostat, no text, so none of Tom's words in there, but just images of Cam Kennedy's artwork, and just there for people to flick through. And I just remember flicking through, I guess would have been issue 1 of Dark Empire, and just like, what the and of course, but at that point it was Trek, and I was very much into my comics as Marvel and DC guy, so I was there for the comics, I was there for all of that stuff. And all of a sudden this Star Wars thing comes back, never stopped loving it, never stopped. I mean, we were doing audio cassettes, I was writing fan fiction, we were role playing 3 nights a week, West End D6, West End Star Wars, but I wasn't expecting to see new stuff. And then, like you say, there's this Dark Empire there. Oh, it was fantastic. And I suppose you think, if any kid, I mean, you say your son's 28, so he was born after this. To my mind, from 91, from Heir to the Empire to now, it's not stopped. It's never not been consistent. You've had, because you had the Insider sort of renamed in 93, 94. The Galaxy magazine, that Topps did, which I miss so much. I love that. Star Wars Galaxy trading cards started in 93. Hasbro or Kenner got the license in 94. You'd had Bendham's before that, Galoob kick off.
Bendham's.
And you think how it went from like the mid 90s, just went absolutely insane. And then you get the special editions in 97. You've had Star Wars.com in 96 building you up to that. And then, of course, you got that 2-year stretch until, the teaser for Phantom Menace. And then it's not really stopped. And I suppose if you've lived If you're under 30, you've lived in a world where there's never not been Star Wars, not just not been Star Wars, but Star Wars at a peak level. It's always been right up there. So for fans like us, how can we not be happy? And continues to this day, doesn't it?
It's amazing. While I was down there digging and grabbed my Dark Empire, my kids. Well, I was going to tell you, my holiday this year is I'm taking my wife to Italy in September.
Oh, wonderful!
It'll be our 30th anniversary, and we've always wanted to go to Italy. And my family background, even though I don't look it, is Italian. So my kids bought me Star Wars, the comic, in Italian. So I found that down in there, which was awesome. And then, gosh, I forgot. I mean, how much great stuff came out, even with the prequels. Here's Heroes and Villains, Topps magazines with posters inside. I know you'll get a kick out of this one because, like you, I loved the Ewok and droids cartoons and things. But if you can see that, the Lost Prince magazine right there. I forgot I even had this. But to look back and see that I still had this stuff is what cracked me up. And for those not watching, sorry, the magazines, the poster magazines from Star Wars and Return of the Jedi from all the way back in the 70s and the 80s, to think, why do I still have these like this? I have no idea. I'd never cut them out and made them into the posters that they were supposed to be. I just left them right in the form that I got them there. But just crazy when you start looking through and you're thinking, I still have this. I've had this for 40 years. I've had this for 35 years. It's just crazy to think of those little, as you would say, bits and bobs. I love that term right there. that we still have around with us from all this time. So just fabulous. And thinking of the Tom Beach stuff, and maybe grab some things, and I saw those and I was like, Mark's probably got like 3 copies of each of these. So I'm going to show him and he's going to go, yeah, okay, big deal. You've got one. All right. But
it's all about making memories though, isn't it? It's physical, it's tactile, it takes you back. That Jedi one with the Gamorrean on the cover, I remember reading that so well as a kid. Yeah, that poster, the Star Destroyer over Endor poster, was on the wall for years. Because I've still got the corners are just worn from the blue tack. So I've never been. I love having things in mint condition, but I'm never going to sell them. So it never bothers me that if things are a little bit dinked or a little bit worn or a little bit dusty or whatever, it's like it's there because I love it.
That's the same thing. I never kept all my originals from the 70s and 80s in box, right? They were just there. And I didn't care if they were old beaters or if they were really pristine. So I don't know if you can see them behind me, but on each of these shelves behind me, I've got, all the ones that I have back here behind me. And there's like 20 of them that I don't have out of the old collection. So I mentioned before, we are going to the ICCC, Nashville, Tennessee, April 29th through May 1st as a podcast. My whole group is going. We've been invited. We're going to have a booth there. We're going to, all that stuff, record stuff, interview people. I will tell you this, the crew that's going to be there, and I know you've had the opportunity to be around these kind of people, but Sir Ian McDermott's going to be there, Anthony Daniels, Matt Lanner, James Arnold Taylor, and I know I'm blanking other people, but just that group. Timothy Zahn is going to be there. For me, you talk about kid in a candy shop, I will probably be just giddy, I'll be beside myself trying to be in the same room as some of those people right there. But I'm also looking forward to rummaging through the bins of old 77 through 83 or 85 or whatever action figures and saying, oh, I need him, buy it, need him, buy it. Because there's still, like I said, that handful that I'm missing. So you're going to Celebration. I won't be able to make it Celebration. Our whole group won't be able to. Any advice you would give us to get while we're going to this big event as a first time of people not just being people buying passes and walking around and things like that? Any advice you'd give us on going to a convention / event as podcasters?
Yeah, you've got a booth. You say you've got a table.
Yep.
So we've done, when I was with Lightsaber, which was my first big site, we had a booth at the first European celebration. It was great fun. And having a table was wonderful because people were coming up to you. And our site was called Lightsaber. So people thought we were selling lightsabers. So we were batting people away left, right, and centre. We don't sell lightsabers; we're called lightsaber. So that was fun. And then I did quite a few celebrations with Jedi News, having a booth, and then most recently, obviously, with Fantha Tracks. This time, we've decided not to have a booth. We just thought we'd just go as a group and just wander around and mingle and do whatever. We don't know whether we're on the podcast stage yet, or even if there is one. We thought we're going to just do something different this time, because obviously being a news site and having a booth, there's a lot going on. So we thought we'd do something a bit different this time. But work up your schedule, because the schedule is important, and make sure everybody's on the same page, because we've had issues in the past about people not being back on the booth, and they don't like it if there's nobody on the booth. But other than that, it's great fun. It's a front-facing thing, but because you're there, you'll be there as Rule the Galaxy, so you're there specifically to talk about Rule the Galaxy, explain to people what it's about. Obviously, you're proud as punch of it, and you should be. So, you can explain what it's all about, get the word out to more people. So we always found we'd have people come up. Sometimes we'd have people, especially with Fantha, we'd have people come up and they'd know who we were, and sometimes they'd know people on site. That's always nice. Who doesn't like to be recognized? That's always fun. But then there's people who come up and go, well, what are you then? What do you do? Oh, we're a news site called Fantha Tracks. Oh, I don't recognize the accent. Are you from Australia? No, we're from the UK. And and you'd explain what you're about and tell them a little bit of the history. And some people knew more. Obviously, Jedi News, for example, has been around since 2007. So more people will know of Jedi News because we worked there for 7 years and built it up and then moved on. And so, but now Fantha's starting to get some traction. Was it 4.5 years in, and so more people are starting to hear about that as well. And so it's just interesting. You get chatting to people, and different people listen to different podcasts. Fantha's not really known for the podcast, even though we've got 6 of them now. But I think we all just get a kick out of it, and we enjoy it, and we like having folks on. We just like talking. I think you might know I like talking, and so it's just a great opportunity to just spread the word about what you do. Right. Networking is always useful as well, just getting to know other people. You'll have a blast. I imagine next time we speak, it will be one of the main things we talk about is I imagine, and that's the show I've never been to. So I'd be interested in, because I want to try and do different shows over the years. Keep doing New York, great fun. Never not going to have a good time at New York Comic Con. Obviously, Celebration, awesome. But I want to try and I've never done Dragon Con. I want to do Dragon Con. There's just all these different shows that I want to try and get to over the next sort of handful of years. So. Yeah, but that's on the list.
Well, I'll tell you what. One, since our my plan is to meet up with great people like you and some of the other guests that we have on here, and Celebration is probably the easiest way to do that. Since we can't go this year, we'll either try to talk you into sorting out some time to go to one that we're going to next year, or we'll find out. I'm sure you'll find out at Celebration when the next one's going to be and where. And by that time, hopefully we'll get a chance to meet up there, because that would be a lot of fun. So, and maybe, since I try to do this timing wise for you and for me, and my rest of my crew says I can't do it at that time, maybe then I'll get you to actually meet the rest of my crew who are all busy doing, I'm sure, work stuff, paying the bills.
Just remember, I'm the awkward one. I'm the oddball. I'm the one that's causing the issues. It's nobody else.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Well, cool. Well, hey, I wanted to keep you for an hour, and I know you have some things to do. Any closing stuff, anything you're looking forward to besides your holiday, your celebration, and everything else? Anything else going on Fantha Tracks, or anything we should know about that we can tell people about and promote?
Fantha's ticking over quite nicely, so I'm pleased with how that's coming along. I'll be trying to bring in a couple of new writers because I want to do more reviews and build that aspect of it. We're looking at launching a couple of new podcasts, which we're going to talk about a bit more on Making Tracks over the next few weeks. So we're just trying to build that up. Okay. But other than that, really, it's just planning for shows. I mean, especially for Making Tracks and also for the YouTube channel, getting out and meeting people, doing face-to-face interviews, and it doesn't need to be War and Peace, just a 5-minute chat with somebody is perfectly adequate in my experience anyway. And for me personally, I've just finished working on Star Wars Encyclopedia, which was a blast. So looking forward to whatever the next adventure is in terms of writing, but it's always going to, as long as they want me, it'll always be Insider. Bitforstarwars.com. I've hopefully got a couple of articles coming up there, one of which I'm really looking forward to seeing because I really enjoyed writing it. And just seeing where the wind takes me, really. But the one thing I really want to do this year more than anything, 2 things. I can't wait to see the first episode of Andor because I'm so excited for that, and also get back to Petaluma, to Rancho Obi-Wan. I'm absolutely if I could only do one thing this year, it would be that we get back to Rancho for the gala. So they're the two big things I would say.
It's on my bucket list. That's one place I Indiana to California is not as far as Great Britain to California, but for some reason it's difficult to get out there and do that. So I have it on my bucket list. I can only imagine what it'd be like to walk through that facility there. So thank you again for coming and taking the time to do this with me. You've been so kind. I think this is your third or fourth time to be on the show with me, and
Yeah.
to not know a guy like me from Adam and just show up and do these shows, I really appreciate it. Again, you're somebody who I really respect the heck out of what you do, and I like having it to where there were two guys. We're both 50 years old. We've had so many of the same life experiences when it comes to Star Wars, and we can just sit here and have a chat and just enjoy it. So thanks again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've got to say, there's not many places I could go where I can literally get my shopping in and not feel like I've been in imposition. So thank you. It's always fun talking. You know me, I can talk all day. So it's always nice to have a chat.
You got it. Well, guys, to everybody, again, Mark Newbold was just a great guest, and we appreciate having him on. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rule the Galaxy. Always follow us again at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter, Rule the Galaxy SW at gmail.com. And if you have questions for us, send them in. We'd love to hear some questions from you. And then just Rule the Galaxy on Facebook and YouTube. And until next week, may the Force be with you.